Record.
Rolling.
Hello everybody on YouTube, it's Rawze from Rawze.com here. I have another person from my forum decided to come over and see me. I guess he's a glutton for punishment like some of the other guys that come over. But his nickname on the forum I guess is Fit Trucker. Makes me feel bad, man. I gotta get rid of my belly.
Fit to be a trucker.
Anyways, you've only just now purchased a truck since...
That's right, back in late October.
Since October. You've never owned a truck before.
No, I have not.
Okay, so you're trying to learn things the hard way like I had to do.
Absolutely, that's the only way I like to do it.
Yeah, you do a lot of research online and digging and found my sorry forum.
I wouldn't describe it like that, but yes I did. Luckily I did.
Oh, that's cool. And you got a what is this, a
T660.
660 KW. What year is it?
2013.
13? Okay, how many miles are on it?
489,000.
489? I guess you want me to pick on it a little bit, I guess.
Pick it apart, see what we can find wrong.
Well, I've already been looking at it. It doesn't actually look that bad. I mean, you know, I've seen some pretty bad come through here. But, you know, this one's not too bad. I can point out a few things. Let me go get a pointer and we'll come back. Okay?
Rolling.
Alright, so what have you done with it so far? You changed the oil in it?
Oh, absolutely.
How often are you changing your oil?
Change the oil about every 12.
About every 12? I tell people it's based on fuel mileage. And for good reason, you know, the more you use your engine, the more you use your truck, and the more you drive it, the more you're going to wear out the engine and the oil. So if you're really light on the pedal, you're really light on your freight, you're not really driving the engine hard, your oil lasts longer. And of course, if you're driving really hard, driving fast, oil's not going to last as long. And also, the emission systems on the engines, you know, these new engines, they take their toll on the oil too. So the harder you drive them, the more you idle, things like that, the more it's going to soot up the oil. And soot's what really kills these things, you know. And, you know, these guys that are changing their oil at 20 or 30,000 mile intervals, maybe the engine maker says it's okay, but in my book, it's not okay, because what happens is, you know, the soot and stuff builds up in the oil, you change your oil, not all of it comes out, and then, you know, it builds up again, not all of it comes out, and after 300,000 or 400,000 miles, the engine is so packed with soot, you actually get ring failures and excess blow-by and all kinds of problems with them, especially these 2350s. I mean, I know a lot of guys who had in-frames done at, you know, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles. I mean, some of them as soon as 300,000, just because of carbon packing issues and minor issues. So they're notorious for it, and, you know, so the lower your fuel mileage is what I tell people. The lower your fuel mileage, the more often you should change it to keep the oil clean, as much as protect the engine. So you say, what was your fuel mileage? Has your fuel mileage kind of roughly been so far?
Roughly, probably about 6.5.
6.5. I'd say 12 to 14,000 mile intervals. You know, if you were getting, say, 4 miles to the gallon, I would say, you know, every 6,000 mile intervals. You know, 5 miles to the gallon every 8 to 10. 6 miles to the gallon every, you know, 10 to 12, maybe 14 if you push it. At 7 miles to the gallon every, you know, 14 to 15,000 miles or roughly. And then at 8 miles to the gallon, you know, it would be 16, 18. And then above 8 miles to the gallon, then you're going to start looking at maybe 20,000 mile intervals. You know, we get 9 quite often. You know, our lifetime's 8.3. You know, but we still change our mileage, our fuel at about 18,000 miles or so.
Now, is that going to be variable as far as, let's say I've got a heavy load and I'm crunched for time, and against my better judgment, I'm going to, you know, put the pedal on the floor, get there, you know, and then let's say I get 5 miles to the gallon on a 2,000 mile trip. You know, let's say that I'm only getting 5 miles to the gallon for, you know, maybe I have 2 loads back to back for 3,000 or 4,000 miles. Should I go ahead and change that oil sooner because I'm getting that worse fuel mileage?
Well, it depends on what it's been since your last oil change.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, you get 2 in a row, it's obviously going to drop your average over a 20 or 30,000 mile period, and you'll see that, okay, yeah, it's definitely gone down. It's, you know, maybe I should consider changing it a little sooner. But yeah, you're right. You know, I wouldn't change it based on 1 trip or 2 trips, but, you know, in between oil changes, if you're tracking your fuel mileage, you know, I would kind of gauge it on that, or what your average is in a quarter or whatever, if you don't want to figure it out in between your oil change, things like that. It's just what I recommend. You know, you can take it with a grain of salt, but I see a lot of people with a lot of engines, and I see the good and bad both. And it's kind of, some of it's based on that, some of it's based on digging on the internet, you know, playing Internet Rambo and doing research and things like that. So, you know, it's just, and a lot of people go by that, and, you know, from my forum, and they say they've had really good luck with it and good longevity, and they prevent a lot of this, you know, soot packing issues in the engine oil. So, if you run EGR and the emission system engine, these newer engines, first thing I recommend, you know, when you get the truck is to put a bypass oil filter on it, you know, to protect the, you know, just to knock the soot out of it. I mean, I put one on mine as soon as I got my truck. I ran the truck probably about 2 months before I put it on, and I did oil sampling, and my oil samples were 3.0, 4.0 was the rating on the oil sample. I don't know if it was ppm or what the rating was. I forget. These, you know, so long ago. But it was running between 3, 3.5, and 4 between oil changes. And as soon as I put a bypass oil filter on, it went down to 0.2 and 0.3. I mean, it's just literally just dropped like a rock. It took almost all the soot out of the oil. So ever since then, I've told everybody, look, just if you're going to run one of these engines, put a bypass oil filtration system on it. This is going to really save the lifespan of the engine. You know, so that's what we did early on in our truck. And we've always had good luck with it. What brand? Doesn't matter. I mean, you're not looking to, you know, I don't tell people put the bypass on and do the synthetic and all this other crap, because really people have bad luck with it, the ISX doing synthetic on them and extended oil changes. They really have bad luck with overhead cam issues and things like that. You know, the oil makers will blame it on everything but that, but the guys who don't do that and they change oil regularly don't have cam issues. So, you know, I tell people not to do the extended, but just to put something on there to get the soot out. So, you know, whatever cheap brand of bypass filtration you can put on there. You know, I mean, some of them are as low as $300-400 installed, you know, for the parts, you know, and then some of them are really expensive. So they basically all do about the same thing. Anyways, so you had the truck since October. Have you replaced this filter? The number one people that come over to my house, the number one thing they always say, well, I didn't even know there was a filter in there.
That was what I said.
This hose clamp right here?
I do.
Alright, you need to, you know, how I do it. I've got a little pump, you know, one of the little Amazon hand pumps for pumping oil out of things. And I'll stick a little tube in there and I'll pump it into a bucket or something. But if you don't have that, you can always loosen this clamp and pop this hose off with a catch pan under here and drain the oil. And then there's a little hose clamp right there, a little clampy clamp. And then, you know, with a pan and drain the oil out of this reservoir. Unscrew this hose clamp, and this thing comes off. The whole thing comes off. There's a little filter in there. It looks like a lawnmower filter. You know, just take it out, go down to your dealer, or just ask your dealer before you take it apart, so you have one, you know, and drain it, put a new filter, fill it back up, you know. I would suggest doing this at about every 200,000, 250,000 miles, you know, like some of my other videos I talked about. And of course, maybe flushing it at 500,000. Maybe crack the line here and put a pan under it, and, you know, run the engine and pour and pour and pour and flush all the old oil out, and, you know, replenish it and then change the filter. But do something to service it anyway. It's surprising to me how few people, you know, they don't know that there's a filter in here, or they just assume there isn't one. And then it blows the seals out of their power steer pump or some other, you know, or messes up, you know, power steering unit. Obviously, I did the wrong thing here. Just said the wrong thing. Anyway, have you changed this filter here yet?
I have the filter that is bored out.
Yeah, the one from Cummins.
I have
a maintenance-free filter that they make for this instead of the regular crankcase filters. A lot of guys will just drill a hole in them, you know, in the original crankcase filter, and they won't bother to buy the maintenance-free one. The maintenance-free one from the red engine maker there is actually just a huge hole with a spring behind it, you know, to keep bugs from getting in the other way. It's like a one-way little check valve. But this filter here likes to clog up about 80,000 miles, and as your engine gets older, it'll clog up quicker. And as this filter starts to clog up, because a lot of people neglect them, it creates more and more crankcase pressure. In other words, pressure under the engine cover, pressure in the oil pan, pressure literally everywhere inside the motor as the engine's running. Especially when you're going up a hill and pulling a lot of torque, you know, it's, you know, a lot gets past your rings. Even on a good engine, you know, some pressure gets past the rings. And if this filter is not changed regularly, it'll blow the seals out of the face seals out of the turbocharger. It'll cause, you know, oil to seep out your, you know, your plug here for your harness for your, you know, injectors or your engine brake, or, you know, it'll cause oil seepage around your cover, or oil seepage around some of the gaskets, because the pressure has nowhere to go, and you really shouldn't be building pressure inside the engine anyways in those areas. So, you know, you always keep this filter clean or drill it out. A lot of guys just drill them out, especially when the engine gets older, because it can't keep up anymore. Or they put that, like you said, that maintenance-free one from the red engine maker on there. So that's always, you know, something to keep an eye out for.